First of all, what is the tampon tax? It's just a catchy nickname for a sales tax applied to menstrual products like maxi pads, menstrual cups, and panty liners. Bonus points for alliteration. Now, where in the world does a so-called tampon tax exist? All but a small group of countries taxes the sale of tampons, but it's worth noting that nowhere in the world does a tampon exclusive tax exist. In the EU, something called a value-added tax, or VAT, is applied to tampon sales, but that VAT can vary from country to country. Why are some folks, especially period-having folks, so mad about having to pay pretty basic taxes on their tampons? First of all, aren't our ruined underwear, pants, and skirts tampon tax enough? But as tampon tax protesters understandably argue, if stuff like kangaroo meat and edible cake decorations are tax exempt in the UK, and 15 states in the US classify candy as tax-free necessities, then why are feminine hygiene products that literally enable us to leave our houses and go to school and work 1 week out of every month taxed as luxury items? Everyone on board then for ditching these so-called tampon taxes. First of all, it's a feminist cause, which some people will automatically dismiss because A, they're uncomfortable with women expressing their opinions too loudly, and B, they often confuse gender equality with favoritism. For instance, toilet paper is rarely tax exempt, even though most people, especially in the bidet-shy United States, would agree that it's a necessity. But of course, anti-tampon taxers might argue that while everybody probably needs toilet paper, only half the population has to use menstrual products. The ultimate goal is to make these basic necessities more accessible for low and no income girls and women. Eliminating the tampon tax is laudable, but does it really make a world of difference when, for instance, these items still aren't food stamp eligible in the United States? And how does that get them in the hands of, say, homeless and incarcerated women who are often forced to manage without? The state of California, for instance, makes $20 million in tax revenue from the so-called tampon tax. That $20 million could then be used to ensure that low-income families didn't have to pay for menstrual products.
Meeting this girl, and I asked her a question, which school do you go to? She replied that I am cursed by God and that's the reason I don't go to a school. So I directed the same question to her father, and he replied to me that yes, in our community, when a girl starts menstruating, we do not send her to the school because they are cursed. For me, it was a state of emergency that this exists in our society. Just because of a superstition, a life of a girl is impacted. And I don't understand why something as natural as breathing is kept a secret from boys. Initially, the challenge was acceptance. There was no acceptance for a man to talk about periods. Many people started questioning my mental balance. But slowly, when I started working with women in the community and there was a sense of awareness among people, the acceptance grew. The reason why men need to talk about it, because the majority of the population has always been silent. It is the men who need to talk about it now. I always thought that we as young people can bring in change.
When it comes to global development, in advancing families and working to break the cycle of poverty, women's empowerment is the key. And a major obstacle that stands in front of us of bringing all women to the forefront is this taboo around menstruation. Women's empowerment is a huge topic right now, and the most sustainable way to accomplishing this, and gender equality in general, is by improving education and employment opportunities for women and girls. But no matter how much attention we put towards creating these opportunities, women and girls cannot take full advantage of them if periods aren't addressed. Periods, according to Femme International, are the #1 reason why girls miss school in developing countries. In Kenya, girls miss an average of 4.9 days of school each month just because of their period. That is almost a full week of school, 25% of one school month. But then the boys and girls are split up, the boys in one classroom and the girls in the other. And the boys talk about puberty, how their voice is gonna lower, not to be scared of that. And the girls talk about periods. The teacher may explain what it is, hold up a tampon, explain how to use it. Meanwhile, the word periods or menstruation is never mentioned in the boys' classroom. So from that point on, girls are taught that you only talk about periods with other girls if you talk about it at all. The taboo around menstruation also affects mental and physical health. In India, 70% of reproductive diseases are caused by poor menstrual hygiene, and the effects can go so far as to affect maternal mortality. Unclean methods of maintaining your period, either due to a lack of resources or a lack of education surrounding the usage of products, can cause infections ranging from skin irritation to something more fatal like toxic shock syndrome. I myself, before coming to the realization of how natural and womanly it was to have your period, identified my time of the month as a time when I was less capable, less able to participate, less able to compete with my male counterparts.